Welcome back to another episode of Finally Motivated. Our guest today is none other than Corey Samuels. Corey is a friend of mine. We've known each other for quite some time now. I'm very honored to know Corey. I felt honored to know him back then as well, but now he is also a Lego Master champion. You might have seen him on Lego's Lego Masters show. He's also a Lego STEM educator, and he changes lives brick by brick. Corey, thank you for coming on the show. You always had a sort of confidence about you, and I I'm curious, how did you become who you are today?
Oh man, it's let me start with this. Um I've spent 40 years, 4 decades on this planet, and every day is a new day. So um I come from humble beginnings. My parents, they worked hard to provide a life for me and my siblings. And what made me the man I am today is a mixture of a lot of things, but I would say mainly um, my my father. And my dad. He worked very, very hard all his life. And one thing he used to always tell me is, make sure when you step out the house that you are representing not only yourself, but you're representing your family. And you know, if you're stepping out of this house and you doing all types of crazy stuff, that's going to reflect on me. That's going to reflect on your mother, your siblings, your ancestors. Like, he made it to where if I stepped out the house, I better be walking right, because one little step in my entire way of life and all of my family is going to be let down. So he put a lot of pressure on me as a kid, but what I appreciate in my father is that he instilled in me a sense of pride, and I carry that pride every day.
Yeah. So some people would crumble under that pressure, but somehow you persevered and continue to grow. Why is that?
Honestly, it's because a lot of people depend on me. Um, when I was growing up, I always looked at my siblings as who depended on me. So I had to be successful for my siblings. Um, as I got married, my wife, she depended on me. As you could probably hear in the background, I have a 3-year-old now.
Yeah.
She depends on me. So it was never a time where I felt like I was by myself. I felt like I always had to show up for other people. I always had to show up for everybody else. So, that's always been a motivation for me to just continue to press forward, because at the end of the day, if I fail or if I stop, then who's going to pick up the mantle? So I always kept that in my mind.
I see. Now, have you always been entrepreneurial?
Um, yes and no. Yes and no. I would say once I got out of high school, I was very nervous about getting into the workforce. Only because, I knew I was a hard worker. I knew I could work, but I always wanted to see what was the next step.
Yes.
So, I'll just talk real briefly. My last major job was a job at Vonage. It's a VoIP company. And I came in an entry level as a customer service call representative. And I knew, like, I didn't want to be in that position too long. So I said to myself, I'm giving myself a year and a half to learn the business, learn the product, know the product, and see how I can elevate. And, a year and a half came, and I became, assistant supervisor, and then moved into supervisory roles, and then analyst. And then I started working directly for the CEO as an analyst.
Hmm.
All of that stuff was really good, but I was always looking for what's next. I wasn't satisfied there. So in a way, I kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I was kind of nervous to make that first step
Yeah.
into entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you know that this is something that is a path that you would want to consider?
Um, Honestly, I didn't know if it was. I introduced a product that I'm truly proud of. Hold one of my products. It's a Lego pin. So
Hey.
it's a Lego brooch. And I looked in the field and I said, okay, well, there's a lot of people who do that. They sell on Etsy, they have websites and everything like that. What makes me so different that I could step into this realm and dominate or to cut out a piece of pie, so to speak? And I just said, you know what? There's no way to know for sure until you step into it. So I stepped into it. And I said, I want to create a pin that looks like a lapel pin from afar when you get closer to it, and it's Lego. That was my whole thing. I wanted to be separated from everyone else. So that was always a mentality of me. Whatever I do, I'm gonna be in a market space, but I have to be different from the market space. So as I entered into this space, it worked well for me, but then it wasn't paying the bills. I wasn't going to get to that level to where, at least at the time, to where I'll be making money and I could just do this full time. So I
Yeah.
started looking into what else I could do, and then teaching came in, and then Lego STEM teaching became an avenue for me, and I thrived in that avenue until the pandemic hit. And once the pandemic hit, everything shut down. Right, school shut down, everything. So a issue that I had at Vonage is that they ended up outsourcing my entire department, and I got a severance.
Hmm.
And I said I was so mad because I was in school, I got 2 degrees while I was working there. I elevated myself educationally. I elevated myself within the business. And then at the end of the day, they didn't even put me somewhere else. They just dropped me. So I said I never want to experience that again.
Yeah.
And then years later, this pandemic caused that to happen again. So I said, all right, um, I'm not letting that happen to me again. So I decided, okay, I could teach. I have pieces. I could do that. So
Yeah.
then I started doing online programs. And it kind of helped that I was on TV because that was when the first season of Lego Masters aired. And I said, okay, now I have a little bit of skin in the game. I'm a Lego STEM teacher, and I was also on TV in a Lego competition. Clearly, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. But what separated me from other Lego STEM teachers is that I have a different method of teaching where not only do I teach what the project is going to be to the students, I encapsulate their creativity by having it become a story. And it's not enough for them to build something, they have to tell the story around it. And then now it becomes personal to the student because now who's going to tell the story better than the student themselves? I can't tell their story. They could tell me the story. And then that's where it kind of started from there. And that's where it grew to where it is today.
So why is it important to create this space of storytelling with the Legos?
It's important because anybody can take in instructions, take a bag of Lego and say, hey, we're going to build this on the instructions. Anyone could do it. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to build with Lego. The instructions literally tell you which piece to put where and how it's going to look. What you can't teach is how to tell a story with those pieces. So a lot of times what I do in my classes, like for example, today we started a new class. And in this new class, the kids are going to build this kingdom. I tell them, this is called Lego STEM Kingdom. You guys are going to build these castles and you're going to build all this other stuff. You're going to raise an army. And the kids are like, their eyes are open wide. They can't wait to jump into it. But I said, but guess what? You're going to start with this small piece and you can only use this amount of pieces. But like, well, how are we going to build our kingdom? That's the point. You're going to start off understanding the foundation of your kingdom. And then as you grow in the class, you're going to reach to that stage that I was telling you about. I'm only giving you a small sliver of that, but you have to build to it. So now they're saying, okay, I have to build towards it. But not only that, I have a sense of belonging. I have a sense of pride knowing that this is where I started from with this little piece. And now I have this vast kingdom at the end of 5 weeks. So the
Yeah.
storytelling is just a building up on what they're creating is like a snowball effect is what I like to think of it. Like the snowball starts really small, but as it gains momentum and as it goes, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's why I think storytelling in my program is essential to the growth of the program.
It sounds like every student should take your program.
I think so. Because my program, Lego is secondary,
Yes.
which is interesting because a lot of places that I teach my program, they introduce it as a Lego program. They say, oh, this is Lego STEM, Lego building, build with Lego Master Corey. But the kids are understanding, they're learning about economics. So like for this class that I just mentioned, the kids they can get any piece they want, but they have to buy it. So I give them gold coins and I say, hey, this is your gold coins and you need pieces to build your castle. You have to pay. And I have a little booklet that they look through. They're like, okay, well, I want to get 20 of these brick pieces, but then you have to give me $200. And he's like, okay, give me $200. They get that. And then, they do that for a while and they say, hey, Lego Master Corey, I don't need these 10 pieces. What can I do with them? You can sell them to your friends. I mean, if you sell them back to me, I'm going to take a percentage off and you're going to get back less. So
Nice.
now they're learning economics. They're learning supply and demand. They're learning entrepreneurial spirit by selling. I had this one class as a Minecraft class, and the kids, in order to earn currency, they had to build little trees, and they trade the trees with me, and I give them money. So these two students, they said, okay, we're going to buy out Lego Master Corey. So they kept building trees, and they kept trading the trees with me, and I kept giving them material. So by the time I was done, let's say maybe 4 weeks in, they brought off all my material. They turned around and they started to sell that to the students. Like Lego Master charges $200 for this. We're selling this for $100. They're like, oh, we don't need to go to Lego Master Corey for pieces. We'll come to you guys. They literally closed down my shop so that they could sell. So when I saw that, I said, like, that's deep because again, it's not a Lego class that they're in. They're learning about all different types of stuff. That's why I like to
Mhm.
consider my classes more of a life skill class than a Lego class.
Yeah, I like that. So, how did this develop where you saw something that everyone sees the same way, but you saw something different into it and it has more meaning, and now you're sharing that meaning with other people. So, why does Legos have so much meaning to you?
That's a good question. Let me show you. On my desk, I have this image right here.
Mm,
Now, that is me at 12. I was about 12 years old, 13 years old. And I was an art magnet. So for those who don't know what art magnet is like a gifted and talented program for elementary school students in like urban areas. So my path was art. So for that class, we had to build a game, a board game, new board game. So I was big into Lego as a kid. So I built a game called Lego World, and it was like Monopoly. I colored all the money. I made all the monies, and I used Lego people to be what they use to move around the board, and they'll land on a spot, and then I'll give them pieces, and they can use those pieces to build something. So even then, I saw the potential in what Lego can do. I always consider Lego as the most versatile, the most creative toy that has ever been created because you could literally take one piece that looks like this,
mhm,
and then if you put things together, let me see. I usually have stuff nearby that I can kind of showcase.
mhm.
But I have a lot of things. So it can start from one piece and then it can turn into something else. So this is a project that I'm working on.
Wow.
And again, starts with one piece, but all Lego, you know? So that's why I
Is
love
that a saxophone?
it is a saxophone.
It's
It is
beautiful.
a saxophone. See the back, the other part of it is over here.
Don't tell me it works. No, I'm playing.
You know,
That
everybody, a lot of people always ask me, they're like, yo, is it gonna work? I'm like,
you made it look too real, Corey.
that's the point. That's the point. So when I hear that, I feel honored. I'm like, the fact that you would even think to say, hey, does this work? That tells me that what I designed already in your mind has said it works. It has to work. It looks too real not to work.
Yeah.
So things like that just really it really makes me happy to see that. So it does not work. I'm still working on it. Hopefully, once it's all constructed and put together, maybe I can try to find a way to put a windpipe through it. That way, if you blow into it, it may make a sound, but I'm that's next level. But I'm willing to reach that level.
Yeah. So we know that you are a responsible husband and father, and you're always going to provide. Now, entrepreneurship is full of challenges and pivots and things that just maybe make you feel discouraged. But aside from providing and security, there seems to be something else that continues to drive you. Have you identified what some of that is?
Yeah. Um. I always go back to my parents. My parents, they didn't go to college. They didn't go to high school. My father, he back in Jamaica, elementary school was like his the last level of education he did before he had to go to work. My mother, she got her GED when she came to the States. And I always look at what they were able to provide for us for four kids. And then they still were able to provide for us. So me who went to school, who went to high school, who went to college, got 2 degrees, I have no excuse. I never have any excuse to why I can't provide. Um, there was a time where I had to pivot, and it was during that pandemic where I said I didn't know what was going to happen. I did Uber and all that stuff, and I said, man, this can't be it. I mean, it's good money right now, but this can't be it. I have to be able to find something that is gonna make me wake up in the morning and say, all right, let me get to work. And I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful because
Yeah.
you know entrepreneurials is not easy. There are months where the flow is coming in and you feeling it, and then you have those months where it's like it's a drought and you
Yeah.
tapping into
Feast,
savings.
feast and famine.
Yes, yes. So I mean, that's why I always look back and I always say, man, I'm very grateful because when I was in high school and I got out, I always had that urge to keep working. My father always told me to keep working. Man has to work. That's your job. So I always would find a job. I would always have some sort of hustle, and thankfully I've been doing this for coming up on 5 years now. Coming up on 5 years I've been doing this, and I have classes that are always booked. I have speaking engagements. I have assemblies in different schools, and I keep asking myself in the back of my mind, when is this going to stop? What do I do when this stops? What do I do when the schools, excuse me, what do I do when the schools stop calling? What do I do when, I've already been to the school and they're saying, hey, we love what you did last year, but we're not interested in doing that again this year. What do I do then? And I always look back and I say, all right, I always look at my year to date and say, okay, what did I do here? How did I maximize my presence here? Am I charging the right amount of money? Do I need to up that charge? Do I need to look in other avenues? So it's a constant, um, it's a constant flow of ideas and also, understanding, there's going to be a drought coming. what am I doing to prepare for that drought? Did I put enough money aside to make sure that rent is always being paid, food is in the fridge, my son's school is taken care of, all these different things, so I always have that mentality, but I mean, it's a thrill sometimes,
Mm,
just
yeah,
the unknown is scary, but it's like, okay, well, I've been to the unknown and I've made it back out. So it's like, okay, I feel like I can still, navigate this world, until I say, you know what, I'll go back to a 9 to 5, something that I know is going to come in every 2 weeks. But I don't see that
yeah.
happening anytime soon.
So you love a good challenge.
I do.
You welcome it. You say, what you got?
Listen, man, without a challenge, oh man, it's I'm a big movie guy. So one of my favorite movies is Rocky, right? And Rocky 4, Apollo, you know, Apollo, he fights Ivan Drago, and Rocky is talking to him. He's like, him and Adrian, they're saying, at this point in the game, you know, why bother do this? You've reached the mountaintop. You people know who you are. You've been champion. You've made it. There's no reason to put yourself in this position. And Apollo said something to Rocky. He was like, you know if there's no war for the warrior, then the warrior might as well be dead. And it was kind of like him saying, yeah, I don't need to take this fight. I don't need to do this, but I'm dying inside because I don't have a challenge. I
Yeah,
don't have anything to fight for. And for me, it's like I never want my son to worry about where's his next meal coming. I never want my son to worry about if the lights are going to get cut off and if we're going to get kicked out the house. I never want my son to ever experience that because I never experienced that. My parents' lights have always been on. You know, the bills have always been paid. And again, my two parents, I have more education than both my parents. You know, I've I've made more money than both my parents. So it's like there's no excuse that my son can't have all the things that I've had and then some. So that's my drive. That's the challenge,
yeah,
is always provide, you know.
yeah. I like that. There's a pivotal moment that I had when we had a conversation a few years back where I didn't have many examples of people around me doing something that they loved. And it was just about do something, get money. If you're good at it, even better. If you love it, that's rare. Come
Yeah,
on. You
yeah.
kidding me? You love music, but how many people are, Jay-Z and Taylor Swift? So
Mm.
it's like it's often not enough to love it. And when you had mentioned to me that your job is with Legos and you love Legos, it opened up my mind a bit because I'm thinking to myself, this is possible. So you operating in your purpose and following your heart affects more people than you think. To provide a mindset shift, to provide a perspective that they probably weren't expecting. And so I want you to know that beyond what you can imagine, you are affecting so many different lives and just futures. Um, did you have examples of people doing what they love?
Growing up,
Yeah.
I did. Um, I was like I said, I was in this art magnet program, and I had a chance to meet a lot of cool people. But I would say my art teacher, Miss Majewski, she's passed away now, but Miss Majewski always had a smile on her face, and she was a little small white woman surrounded by a whole bunch of black kids. So you could just kind of see, what's going on there. But one thing she's always showed me is her passion for art and how much she loved art. And she would always challenge us. I can remember, we had to build a puppet, and it wasn't enough that it was just a regular sock puppet. She wanted us to build a puppet that reflected us. How do you tell that to an 11-year-old? How am I supposed to make something that reflects me? So I sat and I thought about it, and I said, I don't even know what to build. And everybody started building, they started building these creatures and all that stuff. I said, I'm gonna wish it was. So I made a his name is Mark Nocchio. That was the name of my puppet. It was Bob Marley. He looked like Bob Marley. He looked like at the time it was Michael Jordan, and he looked like me. So my puppet was tall, had locks, had cool clothes, at least to me. And that was, and Miss Majewski was like, well, Corey, why did you choose to make this? And I was like, because I'm not happy with the way I look. And this is how I want to look. So, when I said that to her, she had a tear in her eye. And I remember she had told me, she said, Corey, you're perfect just the way you are. You don't have to look like this person, that person. You don't have to compete with this person or that person. You're perfect just the way you are. And, at the time I was just like, you're just saying that. You're a teacher. You're supposed to say nice things. But the way she said it, she was very passionate about that. And I saw that not only was she passionate about art, but she was passionate about my future and how I saw myself. And the way I teach my students now, like I have students who have never built with Lego a day in their life. Their parents wanted to put them in a program just to get them out the house or to make sure that they have something to do after school. And by the time they leave my program, not only do they have more confidence in building with Lego, they feel better as a person. They feel that they're more accepted, because when you're in my Lego class, nobody's beefing with anybody. There's nobody bullying anybody. Everybody's working together. Or even if they're competing against each other, they're still working together, And now that was something that I took from my sixth grade art teacher. Miss her all the time, but a lot of stuff that I do in my class was because of her.
So it seems like there's a big difference when someone is motivated truly internally by what they're doing versus they're just doing it as a job. And you felt the difference.
Yeah. Because I mean, I didn't like, let's again, entrepreneurial, you know, yeah, a lot of times we do it for the money. If I'm getting paid for something that I'm good at, I'm gonna let it keep going, But if you're getting paid for something that you're passionate about, like people say, like you never work a day in your life. Like I sometimes I put together my calendar and I look at my calendar. I'm like, oh man, I got a lot of stuff coming up. I got a lot of things on my plate, and I'm like, I can always squeeze something else in. I could always do something else. Let me reach out to them. Hey, I have some free days on Thursday. How about I meet with your kids? You're like, oh, okay, yeah, we could probably try to do that. Don't worry. Let's just meet up. Like, don't worry about the cost right now. Like I can introduce something to the kids and see if they like it. It's that type of um it's that type of flexibility that I now have, that I feel, you know, I'm I'm in a good place right now. Could I be doing better? Absolutely. Could I be making more? Sure. Um, but it's the ability to change the lives of these kids, and how I have that opportunity, and I'm happy about that.
I love it. So how does that make you feel when you know that you've had such a positive impact on certain lives, the lives that you know of and the ones that you don't?
I feel like I'm doing what God put me on earth to do. Um, Everything is always going to be driven by um, what I feel God is wanting me to do. If God didn't want me to do this, then I would be doing something else. I always look back at my past work life, the different jobs that I worked, the different experiences that I had. For a long time, I thought I was going to retire at my old job. I said, I was there for about 11 years. I said, I could, be there until I'm, 25 years in the job, and then that's it. I could retire. I could retire early, and I could just kind of reap the benefits. That's what I was thinking. And then it didn't happen that way. And as much as I didn't like that, I always look back and I say, I learned a lot because the way that I do business, I'm very, very structured and I'm very, very methodical in how I do business. And a lot of clients who've spoken to me and done business with me, they always say the same thing, Corey, like you are the most organized individual. Like you, you tell me exactly what you're going to provide. When I need to pivot or when I need to change something, you're flexible. You're willing to make those changes. When I say, hey, the price is a little bit too high, you're willing to come down off the price a little bit. You're willing to meet me where I am. And, it's because of that I've recommended you to other places. And then those places reach out to me and then I give them the same service and then it spreads. You know, just I'm grateful. I'm thankful for the work that I've done in the past and the life that I've had in the past because that has led me here. And again, if God didn't want me to be here and doing what I'm doing now, then he would have put me somewhere else.
Yeah. What would you love to say to um a young aspiring entrepreneur that you think would be a pivotal thing for them to understand as they start embarking on their journey?
Be willing to grow, be willing to cut. What I mean by that, um, I always look at a tree, right? You put a tree in a pot, that tree is only going to grow as much as that pot is allowing it to grow. As soon as you take it out the pot and you put it into the ground, the tree can grow as much as it needs to grow, as long as you take care of it. But then as it grows and as it gets big, there's branches. Those branches need to get cut because those branches could be to where it's stopping another pivotal part of that growth of the tree from growing. So you need to snip those branches off. You need to cut those thorns. You need to trim those hedges. So that way the tree has enough room to grow even more. So as a young entrepreneur growing, starting, be willing to make those changes. If you want to be in the New York market, but maybe it's not ready for you, start local. Start somewhere that, is not known. Start there, get the experience, build momentum. And then eventually you'll get to the New York market. I tell you, for me, season one Lego Masters, me and my brother got on. You know, we were super happy. We were eliminated the third challenge. Um, I felt bad. My brother, he was happy to be on this journey and everything like that. But for me, I took it more personal because, I brought my brother on this journey and I wasn't ready for the journey to end. And, I remember we came back home and we started doing challenges. We recorded ourselves doing challenges, 10, 12-hour challenges over the course of 2 days. We were doing challenges. We were sending it back to Lego Masters. We kept saying to ourselves, Lego Masters is going to see this and they're going to bring us back on the show. That was my mentality. They never did. And, 3, 4 years in, I never stopped being who I was. I never stopped being, what I needed to be in this community. And then I got the opportunity to get back on Lego Masters for the holiday special. And then once I got into the holiday special, the rest is history, literally. So what did I have to do? I was in a pot. Lego Masters season 1, I was in that pot. I had to grow out of that pot. But in order for me to grow, I had to get snipped. So they snipped those branches. They moved me out the plant, out the pot. They put me into the ground. And then once I got into the ground, I started to attack in the online space. So I started doing online classes. Then the world started opening up. I started doing local classes. Then those local classes, the parents said, "Oh my goodness, you'll be great for my company. We have this thing. We would love to do something with Lego with you." Okay, no problem. Started doing that. Then it started to grow. Then other companies started reaching out. Hey, we wanted to do, the same thing you did for this company. Absolutely. Other schools, we saw what you did with this school. We want that. Okay, no problem. And then it started to grow. It started to grow. Now I'm able to grow even more because I have more plane, I have more ground that I need to touch. And then now, winning, becoming the first African American Black Lego master ever on any series or any brands of Lego masters, coming the first. Now I've just moved out of that ground, different. Now I'm in a different space. Now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to grow some more. What is there for me to do? What else can I do? So, Scott,
Yeah. So you've learned to take what may be seen as a failure or a tough situation as a clue to understand what can you do now, as opposed to letting it destroy you.
so I would say not every person is going to learn those lessons the same way, right? So you're going to see failure, and that's going to send you down a downward spiral. That's going to happen. You might see failure as just, okay, maybe I just need to go a different way. Or maybe, you know what, that wasn't where I needed to be. I would never forget, I was working at Vonage, and, we were, they selected, we were called, what were we called? We were called SMEs, so subject matter experts. So it was an unofficial title, and then they finally decided to make it official. They only had 4 slots. I was one of the 4 slots, right? And I remember I said, I'm not satisfied doing what 3 other people are doing as well. Like, how could I be different? So I remember I talked to the executive talent manager of the customer service. And I said, Miss Jones, what can I do differently? She said, you know what? We do have a void. We need to do something with learning and development to where the agents are learning the product a lot better. They're not learning it through modules, stuff like that. I said, what if I designed a board game? And what if we created a time where each team can get off the phones and play this game for incentives, for, gift cards and free time and, all that stuff. She said, you know what, that's a great idea. I said, great. Can I work on it? She said, yeah. So I built this big Monopoly game, and it took me a long time. I spent long hours. I remember leaving 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, like doing this. And I delivered this game. The whole floor was raving. I did it several times, several different games. A year later, I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to ask for that promotion. Like, hey, I want to leave this position. I would like to work with learning and development. I would like to work directly for you, and we can create these different incentives for everyone. Not just the U.S. market. We could do it for the global brand as well. Um, Conversation stopped, and basically there were agendas that other people had. They saw where I was elevating to, and they decided to clip my wings, so to speak. So they demoted me. So instead of promoting me, they demoted me. And when they decided to do that, I remember they told me I was going to go back on the phones starting Monday. and all of my rights that I had were going to be stripped. And I remember after that meeting, I didn't yell, I didn't lash out. I said, okay, um, I like, I just, can I get a moment? She was like, yeah, take a moment, all that stuff. So I remember I walked into this room, and I remember I was teary eyed, and I was looking outside, and I was just like, I was like, I was talking to God. I was like, Lord, I need you to say something right now, because if I go back out there, I'm going to, I'm going to lose my job today, and I'm going to take out as many people as I can. So I was upset. And I remember I used to go in that room, and I used to do like little devotions. So as soon as I did that, as soon as I did that, Jeremiah 29, verse 11, that popped up. That was the first verse that popped up. And I remember I read that, and I read it, and I kept reading it, and I kept reading it. And I saw it as I said, okay, like, are you telling me that this is not the avenue that I need to go? This is not the route. And it was like, God was like, yeah, I need you to scale back, because I'm going to propel you even further. So I said, okay. So I humbled myself. Monday came. I went right back on the phones, and nobody knew until I was on the phones, and they said, "Well, aren't you supposed to be?" I was like, "Nope." 6 months later, I got an analyst position out of that department, off the phones permanently. Now, everyone all the SMEs that were my level, they then have to submit forms to me to review. And I saw that, and I said, I could easily just rub it in their faces and all that stuff. But I said, no, this is what God needed for me to do. He needed to humble me and bring me back a little bit to propel me even further. So when I take that into the entrepreneurial life now, with every failure, it's just God telling you, I need you to stop. Wait a second, analyze, look at, why, and now I'm ready to propel you forward. So it's just a matter of humbling yourself, allowing yourself to fail, allowing yourself to crumble in that fail, just so that you can build yourself up to be even stronger. And then next time it coming, oh, I know how to pivot. I know how to change this. I know how to do this different.
Yeah, so you've been able to maintain your motion no matter what, regardless of what comes along your way. You've maintained your motion, and a lot of people quit altogether and think that there's something wrong with who they are. Maybe they're not good enough, as opposed to taking it as a learning opportunity. So I commend you. I commend you on being able to continue to navigate and make decisions that um you're gonna you're just gonna try it, because you're not looking for perfection. You're gonna try, because perfection doesn't exist, but you're going to maintain the motion. And I think that's such a great message. Now, to get to where you are right now, it it's it doesn't usually happen alone. What would you say, um how would you say your environment has affected you throughout your journey?
Uh, hmm. I would say that brotherhood is very important. Um, and me and you, we go back, and there was a time where,
You'll always be my brother.
oh, always, and you too.
Even though we haven't spoken in probably years now.
Like last year, it was like 2 years ago. It was like 2 years ago, I think. It was
That's
at
years.
it was at a cookout. We used to
Yes.
sit at a cookout.
Yeah.
But when we were in Metro, in Metropolitan SDA, one thing I really appreciate that era, or that phase of life, is the brotherhood. And I appreciated sitting around the other brothers and just listening to what they're going through, and whether it's like Harain, that's he's working with Disney, and he's doing all these different things. And then, you switch it to Shah, who's like, yo, I just left this job and, right now I'm just trying to, figure out what's the next move. It's just like just so many ranges of where we are, and I remember me, I was just like, yeah, I teach Lego STEM to kids and, this opportunity is coming around and, I don't know if I'm gonna get on, but, if I do, root for me, all that stuff. And like, even you, like, you were, where you started from, where you were working at a business, or you were designing websites and stuff like that. And then to pivot to like owning real estate, and then to pivot again, like you were still finding your footing. And then all of us were still finding our footing at the same time, and still trying to be good husbands, trying to be fathers, trying to work in the church and trying to do that. Like, it's just so much stuff that we were trying to do and try to do different from our fathers, right? So for me, my environment of brothers is what really motivated me to say, all right, my brother Reynard, like me and Reynard, we grew up together as kids. So like, he's dominating the financial world. Like, I can't go into, like, I didn't want to even go to school for finance. I was like, I don't want to go to school for finance, because Reynard got that on lock. And my other brother Hugh, like he works for BMW. He's like working on the cars. He's putting input. I'm like, I don't even want to go to school for automotive, because he's dominating that world. I'm like, what can I dominate? What can I what a part of the world can I come back and say, hey guys, I own this, And it was like, at first it was cell phones. That wasn't working. Then it was VoIP, phones. That wasn't working. Then Lego STEM, it's kind of something, but it's not something. And then boom, Lego Masters. And it was like, oh, I think I found what I was looking for. And then boom, that was it. So it's honest, it's just it's brotherhood, man. It's the brotherhood that has kept me from taking shortcuts in life. It kept me from resorting to the streets like a lot of my other brothers decided to do. And, I saw where they burned quick and it fizzled out, and I didn't want that. And my parents didn't work hard all their lives so that I fizzled out, like my cousins and stuff like that. Like, they wanted me to become successful. And that was always a motivation for me, like, to become successful, to, not only to make my parents proud, but to also rub it in my parents' face. It's kind of weird, but my parents were like my hardest critics growing up. So for me, it was like me proving that I could be successful is like, yes, we're happy for you, but it's also like, we're glad we motivated you. I'm like, no, you didn't motivate me. You gotta make me feel a certain way,
The
but
opposite,
to prove it, I want to prove to you guys
right?
succeed. You know?
And I think oftentimes it's out of fear, because they want the best for you, in terms of, in the best that they know of is something that they deem is stable. And so when they see something that you don't understand, you get anxious and you get fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can halt the progress of someone's journey and vision, because you have to go through the challenges to become someone that you're imagining that you can be. And it's, yeah, I think a lot of us, we go through that, man, and it's tough, because your parents love you, but
You know, my
they
cousin,
don't know business a lot of times,
yeah,
or know how to support.
my parents, they really, I would always tell them what I'm doing. And sometimes they're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Okay, yeah, that's nice. But I will tell you this. I did an event in Cranford, New Jersey. It was it was a small little venture. A couple families came out. We did this Lego building thing. And my mom and my brother, they showed up. Like, they surprised me. I didn't mention it to them, but they surprised me. And I realized, like, that was the first time my mother saw me in this element. Like, she's always, she watched me on TV. She watched when I won. She was super happy. But my mom has never seen this side of me. She would always see me going to an event or coming back home from an event. she'll never see me in the middle of it. So I remember just kind of watching her, and as I'm like interacting and I'm in my zone and everything like that, she's just watching. And I remember I was like, Ma, I like, you're all right? Everything all right? And she just kept looking. She was just like, I never realized all the stuff that you do. And like, I've always wanted you to be on TV. That's what she always used to say. But she never realized that, she never realized the type of personality that I am, to all these kids, to these parents, to this community. And she just was like, I'm just, I'm just happy for you. I just never understood. I never knew that this is what you do. And I was like, it's not that I didn't want you to be a part of that, but I don't know. I feel like I never feel like I made it. So I didn't feel like I made it yet to bring you in. Like I wanted to make it and then show you all those years of hard work. This is the plateau as of right now that I am. So get used to this, because in a year from now, I ain't gonna be here. I'm gonna be up here. So it's like, it was different for my mom to experience that, but I was happy she did.
Yeah, that's always that sounds beautiful. I just did a workshop right before our interview, and my parents were on there, and it feels different when you're talking to strangers versus when these are the people that raised you and they knew you one way, and now they're experiencing a whole new different side. And it's even more powerful when you know that you're not faking this person that you are.
Yeah.
You can confidently, this is who I am. Like, I'll be like this here, I'll be like this there. This is what I do.
Yep.
How does that feel?
You know what? I always hear that, and I love when I do hear it. So last week I was on a podcast, and after we filmed the podcast and everything, they said, Corey, we've interviewed a lot of Lego masters, a lot of them, and they're always in this, they have their lighting and everything like that. They have their room and everything, and it's just them. The camera's focused on them. Like, but you, man, you're like, you got your kid in the background. Like, he's making all the noise. You keep looking back to check on him. It's like, yo, you're genuine, man. Like everything you said, we felt it because it was real. It wasn't something you rehearsed. It wasn't something that you constantly kept saying to where it sounds natural. It's natural. And then you also have life as your element. You have your father. Like you're like, this is genuine. And I always wanted to make sure, when I got on Lego Masters, I always said to my brother, I said, yo, when we get on, I don't want us to change. I don't want us to get on there and then we feel like, oh, because we were one of the first black teams, that we're better than other black builders, or we should be, hoisted up on people's shoulders, like, and people should be like, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I don't want us to ever feel that way. I don't ever want us to feel like, we're better than, because that's not how we were raised. That's not what the Bible teaches. And I was just telling them that to, kind of remind myself, um, and that's one thing about me, man, in this Lego community. If you ask anybody, about Corey Samuels, they're always going to tell you the same thing, because I'm the same person. Even if if I'm in a live stream, and the live stream people, like, they're vulgar and they're saying all types of crazy stuff, as soon as I enter the room and they put me on cam, they're like, yo, all that stuff that we were saying before, we got to cut it because Corey is here. And Corey already. Like, Corey doesn't curse. He doesn't do no profanity, no vulgar. Like, they give me that level of respect, you know? And they say, yo, Corey, man, the views and opinions does not reflect his brand, because he has a brand to protect. You know, I love that feeling, man. I love knowing that, in this community of all different types of people from all different walks of life, there's a level of respect that I have in this community because I'm the same with a new person in the community to someone who's famous in the community. I'm the same guy. I don't change. Even with this championship, I'm the same dude. And
Yeah.
that's where it's real. And that's how you always bring people in because you're real.
I love that. Did it take you a while to operate in your authenticity? I asked that because there's been times where I questioned, can I be fully myself? And and for different reasons, there's a level of fear of allowing yourself to not only take space, but to allow people to truly see you for who you know that you are. What's that experience been like for you? And have you always been confidently who you are?
I've always been, let me not say that. I have not always been comfortably who I am. Um, to, to, to dip into a little bit more personal, uh, there was a time that I didn't like who I was. There was a time that I hated myself. There was a time I didn't love myself, and I think all of us have felt a level of that to an extent. Um, One thing I do appreciate about working at Vonage is that it taught me to compartmentalize, meaning, as I'm walking into the door, I'm a kid from Irvington. When you're in Irvington, you talk a certain way, you walk a certain way, right? Because then if people see you, they're gonna think that you're square, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we can hustle him, we can get on him," right? So you and me, we said this, not big on sports. I watch it, I don't follow it, but if you're able to sit in the crowd and be like yeah, like if you can say
Blend in?
thing, and then like you know what I mean exactly. And when he did the
I know.
man, that's what's up.
I'll be one of the loudest ones there, and I have no idea what's
No
going on.
idea, no idea. I would never forget we had that conversation.
I know.
I know this how I knew Pickens was my brother, man. Because as well, I'm like, I ain't watched that game, man.
I watch.
I ain't
I
watched
watch
that
this
game,
stuff.
and I don't know, but because I want to be a part of the Brotherhood, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. When he did that thing, man, it was crazy. Like what are you talking about? I mean, the other thing, man. Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was a great connection, a great moment because we found acceptance of each other and ourselves in confidently saying, I am not like them in a way,
Yeah.
and I am who I am, and I don't care. And then from there, that's when we discovered you're the same way.
Yes.
Isn't that beautiful? Like the more, like you can actually find if you're lonely being one way and you're a little shy to break out who you are, but the more that you bring out who you are, you actually become less lonely because you'll find people that are attracted to that same energy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's working, but compartmentalized though. Um, what I had to learn is that I had to shut off a part of myself when I'm around a different set of people. So, when I'm around my corporate friends or my corporate coworkers, I'm using instead of saying, yeah, I will, I'm going to, enunciate and all that stuff, speak like I know English, like my fifth grade teacher used to tell me, speak like you know English. I was like, okay, sorry, Miss Jones, you know. Um, but what I had to learn, is that I have to compartmentalize. And for a long time, I had to do that to where I started to lose myself in the process. And then when getting on the show, we were able to show a little bit of that, but we weren't able to show too much of that. And I was sad about that because we didn't showcase who we were. And then we got on another show, Buddy versus Christmas, and we were able to showcase who we were. And we was able to showcase that funny side. We was able to showcase that serious side of us. And I loved it. And then I started doing live streams. And, a lot of my live streams were just me building the Lego or me in the kitchen, you know. And people just like, yo, dude, you're literally like you're just walking around in the kitchen, you're cooking, you're talking, you're playing music, you're booted off because it's copyright, and then you come right back on. You're real. And I said, for a long time, I had to play a person that would cater to a group of people. When I'm in Irvington, I had to talk with a little slang. When I'm around my friends in like Rawway, where I went to high school, I had to talk a little bit more proper. Like when I'm in the corporate world, I gotta talk proper. When I'm doing speaking engagements, I gotta talk proper, but I can still kind of twist in a little bit of my naturalness to it. Um, and then I got to a point where I'm at this stage now where it's like I'm happy with the way I am. When I'm on live streams and people correct themselves, like, "Oh, sorry, Corey, we didn't mean to curse." I appreciate that. Do I curse? Not really, but when I get upset, yeah, it slips out. But I've worked hard to kind of be that person that my students could look up to, and that's what I always tell myself. If my students could look up to me and they could hear the words that I'm saying and it's appropriate to them, then that's the type of person that I want to be. I don't want to be the person that turns it on and turns it off. And I'll tell you this quick story before I stop. Pathfinders is a big thing for me, right? And I remember when I first became a leader in Pathfinders, I used to go out with my friends every Saturday night. I'll go to church Sabbath morning, Sabbath evening, Vesper, sunset. Once sunset hit, my church closes off, my street closes on, and I'm heading out to wherever me and my friends are going. And I was doing that for a long time. And then I would wake up Sunday morning to do adventurers. And I looked at myself in the mirror one time. I said, "Yo, Corey, what are you doing, man? Like, you literally got 2 feet in the world. Like, yeah, you love your friends. You like hanging out with them. But you got a whole group of kids that are looking up to you. And you're telling them that they shouldn't be doing the things that you were doing. Even if you weren't partaking in it, you were there. You were in the midst. You was around it. So how can you possibly tell them this when you turn around and doing this?" And I said to myself, I can't be no hypocrite. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be a hypocrite. So what did I have to do? I had to choose. Do I want to be an adventurer leader or do I want to hang with my boys? Now I remember I said, "Yo, fellas, I love y'all, but we can't hang out." So I mean, I'll come through for any special event, you doing, but outside of that, we can't hang, man. I gotta be true to these kids. And I
Love that.
chose my path, and that was my path. So
You stuck with it. And
stuck with it.
thank you for sharing that. I truly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely, man. I was looking forward to this, man. And you know what's
Yeah.
crazy? I'm
What's that?
traveling Thursday. And usually if I'm traveling, I got a convention in Charlotte. If I'm traveling, I don't do anything for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because I'm too busy packing, I'm prepping, I'm making sure I got everything. But when this opportunity came about, I said, you know what? I'll be all right. I gotta do this. I gotta do this with Pekins, man. I love what you do, man. I love the fact that you've transformed yourself time and time again. If I was to ask you 2 years ago, what will you be doing today? I'm pretty sure it would be something a little bit different. And if
Yeah.
I ask you 2 years from now, what are you doing today? It's going to be totally different from what you're doing right now. And I love the fact that you continue to evolve, as a man, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, you continue to evolve yourself. And, you're not doing it for any clout. You're doing it because that's where your heart is leading you. And,
Yeah.
you've always been a man of integrity. So I thank you for this opportunity to
I appreciate
buy you, you know?
Man, that means a lot coming from a champion like you, man. Seriously.
I appreciate
Seriously.
it.
Thank you. And I will continue to grow and evolve, and you will do the same. And let's make sure that we keep the brotherhood alive. We continue to support each other.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I, this was a great conversation. I thank you so very much. And I'm also looking forward to getting this up and live and sharing your story with the world because I think a lot of people can identify with a lot of the things that you mentioned and can find inspiration and motivation. So before we get going, can you just tell a little bit about where you what's next for you and how people can reach out to you.
Okay. What is next for what's next for Corey? In the world of Lego, sky's the limit. I made a promise once I heard my name called as the winner of the most recent series of Lego Masters. I said that I will be a champion of the people. And what does that mean? That means that I'm gonna try to do more events in my local area, New York, New Jersey. Um, if it's possible, I'm gonna carry this trophy with me um, to everywhere that I go. That way, the kids they can see the possibilities um, in a person that looks just like them, in a person who has hair like mine. You know, um, that is what's next for me. I'm gonna be the people's champion. So I'm going to be at different events. A local event that's coming up is Brickfest Live in Edison next month. Tickets are available, but it's a convention, the Lego convention. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be doing some workshops there. So if you're free on a weekend, it's the last weekend in April. Show up. Come through. And if you know me personally, hit me up and say, hey man, we would like to bring the family out, and I could try to give you some free tickets, man. But yeah, that's what's next for me right now. But another thing that's gonna be next for me, um, my son, he's my motivation. And my winning build on Lego Masters was dedicated to him. And it was a pop-up book. So I'm currently in the process of working on a pop-up book. That is a pop-up book about his character from the show. He was a tiger that fell asleep listening to his father's read him a bedtime story, and he went to this gingerbread village that didn't have any lights. It was dark, and he took Christmas lights from every community, and he brought a strand from each community to this gingerbread community to light up their entire village.
Mhm.
And that story was very touching, and I want to create a pop-up book of that story. So hopefully it will be in time for this holiday season. I'm currently in the process of finding a publisher that will take on the project. I've written it already, so it's just a matter of um, illustrating it and going through the right channels and seeing where it goes from there. But all the proceeds are going to be going to my son's college fund. That's my goal. So that way, when he's 18, he's set. That's my motivation for the next 16 years. Yes.
I love it. You're definitely driven by impact and you are a great example. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue to be who you are authentically because it not only pays off for you, but it also inspires others. So please don't be selfish and keep yourself to yourself. Share your gifts and your purpose with the rest of us so that we can appreciate it more. So thank you, Corey.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you, man.